There it is, 7 o'clock.
I'm really excited.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Sedro-Woolley City Council Meeting, and please rise for our flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you got enough money. Okay, Council will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar unless there's something on there you'd like to speak, have bigger discussion about.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar from A through E.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Galbraith and a second by Councilmember Wagoner to approve the consent calendar A through E. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Passed unanimous. Okay, this time we're going to item 4, a presentation, Skagit County Coalition Against Trafficking, and this would be Gail Kirsten. Hope they said it right. Why don't we move all this paper?
It's coming up.
Oh, okay.
Just have to give it time.
Okay.
This is so good. How they do this.
Things might often be better, wouldn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
What about this, bro?
But you can't see?
I have a good
Oh my, it's all over.
We're good now. It's good.
I guess I don't have to worry about people seeing.
Yeah.
Okay? No one wakes up one morning thinking, I can do anything with my life, and I think I would really like a career in prostitution. Prostitution is not a victimless crime. Did you know that 100 to 300,000 children are currently sexually trafficked in the United States? The average age of a child entering into sexual trafficking is 13, which means that they are just in middle school. Human trafficking is ranked second as the most lucrative crime in the world. Human sex slavery happens in cities, towns, both large and small, throughout the United States. Sex trafficking is real, and it's happening all around us, even in our communities. Sex trafficking does not just take place somewhere else to someone else. It has happened throughout Skagit County. What is human trafficking? It's the most common form of modern-day slavery. It is the act of recruiting, harboring, transporting, providing, or obtaining a person for compelled labor or commercial sex acts through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. It is Americans, often children, being trafficked by Americans to service Americans. It is the renting of someone's daughter or son, sister or brother. 80% of human trafficking involves sexual exploitation, while 19% involves labor exploitation. It is more profitable to prostitute a child. Why? Children are reusable. They are often given a quota by their trafficker or pimp of 10 to 15 buyers per night. Some are sold to as many as 45 buyers a night at peak seasons like major sporting events. Using a conservative estimate then, a victim over 5 years' time will be raped by 6,000 buyers during the course of their victimization. No child should be forced to sell his or her body to strangers many times a night for someone else's profit. Trafficking leaves behind damaged souls and bodies. Those exposed to trafficking are traumatized and scarred for life. After being forced into prostitution, the average life expectancy of a trafficked child is 7 years. They die of AIDS, drugs, or are murdered. We strive to protect helpless animals. Can we do any less for our vulnerable children? Do you think that only runaways or children from bad homes become victims? Trafficking victims come from a range of income levels, and many come from families with higher socioeconomic status. 80% of those trafficked are girls, and 20% are boys. Trafficking does not discriminate, it exploits. Trafficking is big business and is very organized and violent. Traffickers profit about $32 billion every year. That's more than Google, Starbucks, and Nike combined. 1 of 100,000 American children is targeted every year. Traffickers master the manipulation methods necessary to deceptively lure children into sexual exploitation. As one convicted pimp said, with the young girls, you promise them heaven, they'll follow you to hell. Who are the traffickers? Traffickers represent every social, economic, ethnic, and racial group too. Traffickers are not only men, women run many established rings. Who are the buyers? Buyers also represent every social, economic, ethnic, and racial group. The FBI estimates that 50,000 child predators are online at any given time searching for potential victims. The ability to communicate anonymously over the internet through online chat rooms, instant messaging services, and social networking websites has made it easier to contact children. Because of the high demand for paid sex, our culture has justified prostitution as a victimless crime. This excuses the buyers of their responsibility in driving the commercial sex industry. Pimps find victims in a variety of venues: social networking websites, shopping malls, schools, on local streets, and at bus and train stations. Young men or women are often hired to recruit victims. They make money by grooming a victim before selling them to a pimp. They invest a great deal of time and effort in their victim to break down their natural resistance and suspicion. Social networking websites can be extremely dangerous. The internet has been identified as the #1 platform that traffickers use for buying and selling women and children for sex in the United States. It is a growing problem due to the ease of viewing and downloading images. Communication technologies in the 21st century have altered how people connect. The commercial sex industry has moved from street corners and back alleys to computer screens and smartphones via networks and interconnected computers. Common websites used for marketing are Backpage.com and Eros.com. 10,000 to 16,000 adult services were posted a day on Craigslist.org in the United States. More than 2,800 ads of prostituted children were posted on Craigslist in 1 year. This was an open letter from a girl to Craigslist. I was first forced into prostitution when I was 11 years old by a 28-year-old man. I am not an exception. The man who trafficked me sold so many girls my age, his house was called Daddy Daycare. All day, other girls and I sat with our laptops, posting pictures and answering ads on Craigslist. He made $1,500 a night, selling my body, dragging me to Los Angeles, Houston, Little Rock, and one trip to Las Vegas in the trunk of a car. I am now 17 years old, and my childhood memories aren't of my family, going to middle school, or dancing at the prom. They are of making my own arrangements on Craigslist to be sold for sex and answering as many ads as possible for fear of beatings and ice water baths. This letter was posted on the Polaris Project website. Current estimates indicate on any given day there may be more than 100,000 sites with child pornography. Whose problem is this? Schools, family, church, government. We all have a role to play in identifying, protecting, serving, and defending these victims. You can help raise awareness in our community. Recognize signs of someone being lured into trafficking. These may include withdrawal or lack of interest in previous activities, presence of an older boy or girl friend, an inexplicable appearance of expensive gifts, clothing, or other costly items. Support law enforcement training. Support laws that call for the arrest and prosecution of both pimps and buyers. Support laws that make sure that no child is ever charged with prostitution. Support education in our schools to make our children aware of the danger of trafficking. Support us to empower our communities in recognizing, educating, preventing, and eliminating human trafficking. Protecting children from violence, exploitation, and abuse is an integral component of protecting their freedom to survive, grow, and develop. The Skagit County Coalition Against Trafficking is focusing on raising awareness, and many advocacy groups have committed themselves to this effort. Promising tools include prevention education in schools, prevention codes of conduct among businesses, mentoring programs, and awareness and training programs. Prevention is our #1 priority. Imagine the strength we will create and results we can achieve when we are united through intentional, collaborative action to make our communities safe. There will always be predators, but if we all become defenders, there doesn't have to be victims. You may choose to look the other way, but you can never say again that you do not know. Human trafficking information has been presented to city councils, school administrators, churches, and philanthropic groups, promoting education and community awareness regarding this important topic. As part of January's Human Trafficking Awareness Month, rallies were held both in Anacortes and Mount Vernon, with all of the Seroptimus groups in Skagit County attending. Nationally renowned speaker Margie Quinn, who is the special agent in charge of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, presented 5 educational Not in Our Backyard workshops, January 26th through January 28th. A total of 351 community members, law enforcement, CPS, school counselors, faith groups, social workers, and health care providers were in attendance. We will continue to move forward, and if you are interested in helping, please join us at our next Skagit County Coalition Against Trafficking meeting on March 25th at 6:30 p.m. at the Farmhouse Restaurant. We meet every 4th Wednesday at the same time and place, and we'll have to have new members help us in our endeavor to keep our youth safe. Last month, we had new members attend from all walks of life, representing many businesses and services in Skagit County. With their ideas and suggestions, we will continue our mission of making everyone in our communities aware, educated, and trained so that our youth are knowledgeable and safe. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions for you. Thank you. You said an interesting stat, but I didn't catch the numbers. There was a certain percentage that was labor and a certain percentage...
Yeah, that was 80% was sex and, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And then do you do a meeting ever any other... Because Patty Santangelo keeps inviting me, but we always have meetings here
On the Wednesday.
Same day.
on that same day every month. So I was telling her either they have to be closer or another date, because I would love to help, but, you know.
Well, you know, you can help maybe in another way, too, because besides our meetings, we're going to be moving forward in doing other kinds of workshops and so on. So if you'll give us your name and your email address, we'll put you on
Okay.
that list.
Thank
And
you.
I'm really happy to say that Gail went into Sedro-Woolley School District, and they are considering putting our curriculum in for high school and middle school youth. It's already in Anacortes, it's in McConnor, So Sedro-Woolley, we're going to go to Mount Vernon and Burlington, so that, that's a great step of educating our youth, really, to make them aware of some of the things that they need to be careful with.
In middle school.
Yeah,
You
middle
could also
school.
come to the Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
I used to work on ships in Seattle, and one night we'd stay in hotels, and one night I got a knock at the door. There was a guy there that had two girls that were like 12 and 13, and I didn't know of such a thing, so I just shut the door, but I wish I'd have called 911 at that time, but it makes you really feel real low, even though you didn't have anything to do with it. And I'm amazed at how you feel when you actually have some experience, because you could tell that story to me if I'd never had anything to do with it. It'd just be another story. But I've actually seen it attempted to be happen at my door, and I've heard about a couple stories in Mount Vernon, so it is everywhere. And if you experience any part of it, you feel like a rotten person, so it is a real problem.
Well, and the thing, indicators to watch for, too, with your grandkids or your kids, or just when you see, somebody that you think might need some help.
Yeah, and usually when I ran into it, it was nowhere near the priority of anybody. It's a don't see, don't tell, don't ask, whatever that saying
It's had a
is.
lot of publicity in the newspapers. If you read the Skagit Valley Herald, it's been in the Anacortes American. We went to Superior Court on Monday and Wednesday to listen to a case with a police sting with a 17-year-old boy who was trying to connect with a 9-year-old girl. So it is here.
And it happens every day.
It happens all the time.
And you'd think with the internet, it's more now.
Oh, sure.
See, before the internet.
Well, people used to be, like I said, on the street corner and alleys, and you'd see them visible. You can't anymore because they're on the internet and social media. There's so many websites and so many ways of connecting with people now that it's difficult.
Yeah. And the pit.
Somebody said fanpage.com. If you go on it, there's something like 7 pages of girls in the Mount Vernon area.
So, do you have any insight as about every 5 years there's a big national purge and they advertise, they get 60 or 70 girls they find and free, but then it goes away again. Why is it, at least on the federal level, that it seems like they have a big purge, catch a bunch of people, and then you don't hear about it again for another 5 years?
It's usually done at like the Super Bowl, that kind of thing, where you really bring a lot of people in. But the laws are changing. What's happened now is we recognize that these are victims. A few years ago, they would be prostitutes, and they would be tried, and they would be convicted, and they would have a record. Now they're considered victims. Now they're considered people to be rescued. And so it's slowly changing the mindset of the communities that these are young kids, they need help, versus that they're criminals. So that's starting to make a difference too. And it's really making a difference in this area. We have really great people like Bonnie Bowers and this group of people who conducted these stings. So this is something that they really feel is important, and this is something that they're really working for to eliminate. And a child can be trafficked from their home. There are parents who traffic their kids. There are kids who sneak out because their boyfriend is selling them. So they don't necessarily have to leave home and go to Seattle or Los Angeles.
It's probably 99% drugs. Go ahead.
When you say you find this really increases at large venues like the Super Bowl or something like that, does the organization kind of try to coordinate things with hotels and motels and make the staff aware of that to kind of keep an eye out for those kind of things, or is it just
there is a
beyond
hotel
that?
organization that tries to do this, but it's huge.
It's so deep that it's hard to watch
You're
that.
going in for the Super Bowl. This is like Christmas. This is like back to school shopping. This is their big paydays. This is where they really go big. They really want to get.
Yeah, but do the hotels, do they kind of teach their staff to kind of be on the outlook for somebody walking through with 2 or 3 places?
I would say the upper-class hotels do, and the lower-class hotels don't care. Because I used to stay in the cheap hotels, and it's amazing what you would see.
They're probably getting kickbacks.
Well, they all have TV cameras now. So I think
Anyway, we appreciate you inviting us back again.
Thanks for the info.
good job.
It's eye-opening.
Hey, anytime you want a presentation or, somewhere else, we're happy to go out. We're going, I know, to Mount Vernon next week to the elementary school, to a parents group of non-English speaking people for the most part. So they're going to have an interpreter, and I'll have to speak slower. But that's another, community, because it goes throughout. It doesn't have anything to do with culture, race, or socioeconomic. I mean, some of the top students get caught up in this.
She wants to give you her card.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, one of these is for the Boys and Girls Club here. We have a teen center, and I know that they would really appreciate this there. And then my card, and I put her name on there, too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Come on.
We need allies.
Oh, yeah.
I invited you here.
Thank you. You did.
Yeah.
It was great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we are at public comment time, item 5, and this is something that's not too much is on the agenda, so if anyone else would like to come up and speak, state your name and address for the record. 3 to 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Corianne Jensen. I live at 739 Staff Road. A couple of weeks ago, my boys go to the skate park very often, and I had the website up on my computer, and my boys happened to come home. And I was flipping through the tab, and I saw that the camera had zoomed in on a couple of kids. And from what my boys had told me, they were 12 and 15-year-old boys. And it looked to me like somebody was lighting something, like maybe a cigarette or something. And so I called the police, and I guess my question is there control over the cameras at the skate park? And if there is somebody monitoring it? Because when I had called, they had somebody, an officer went and checked it out, but I was just curious. It took a while, and that's why I called, because I assumed somebody was, since it had zoomed in and zoomed out, that somebody had control over it. So
yeah, well, there's two separate camera systems out there, and the one that's controllable and viewable on the web is not recorded and not monitored. It's there for public use, so you can control it, and it was just somebody in webland that was playing with it.
Okay.
Oftentimes the kids will actually do it from smartphones and watch themselves, or parents or whatever. So the cameras that we have that record are fixed location cameras. They're not as obvious as the one up there, and they are actually broadcast in the squad room. Okay. So they're not, I can't say that they're monitored, but they're there, so it's pretty easy to look up and see what's happening.
Okay. That was just my question. I was just curious about that.
Yeah, so if you send your kids, you can make sure they're there, and you can watch them. It's kind of a neat tool.
Yeah, I use it, but I was just curious about, because I just don't want, I'd like to make sure that our kids are safe.
Yeah, as far as the police response, we'll respond there, but we also have to witness somebody smoking to do anything about a violation.
Right.
So sometimes with dispatch, the delay in getting there happens,
right.
Or if we're on a different priority call. So, yeah, that happens.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll go to new business, item 6, possible approval of Amendment 1 to the 6-year Transportation Improvement Program. And this would be Mark.
Thank you, Mayor. In your packet is the memorandum requesting approval of Amendment Number 1 to the TIP. Every year we bring before the council the 6-year Transportation Improvement Program. We did it last year in August, and it was adopted as Resolution 90414. And that included the SR-20 Cascade Trail West Extension Phase 1A. which was designed to go on the south side of Highway 20, and it's up on the board over here. The original alignment was from Ferry Street to Trail Road, actually to what would be West State Street on the south side. As we moved into project development for that, well, first and foremost, we have the funding for that for the design and the construction phase through a grant and then matching dollars from the city through the Council of Governments, their federal aid dollars. In the project development, we discovered we were going to have some difficulties with the proposed alignment on the south. There were a few things that came up. We'd envisioned building the path, a 10-foot shared use path, within DOT right-of-way on the south side. That involved basically restricting the shoulder from the existing 8-foot to 4-foot to provide a separated grass strip or hardscape, whatever we were going to use, between the path and the highway. And that was acceptable to DOT. They were supportive of the project. But the speed limits in Sedro-Woolley are 35. I had some concerns when we got beyond Sedro-Woolley because one of the intentions of this path and this alignment was to eventually go all the way to Burlington to match up with the existing Burlington sections there that go out to District Line Road. And in discussing that further with DOT, they had some reservations about the 50-mile sections, which would be everything basically from between Rhodes Road and Holt Camp over to within the Burlington City area there. It's about 6,000-7,000 feet on the south side that would have to be in the 50-mile-an-hour section. Also, in working with DOT, with the Burlington Northern folks, we knew that was going to be a tough nut. We thought we could make it happen with the trail predominantly located on DOT right-of-way, which it would have been with the design we had. The difficulty is even though the path itself would be mostly on DOT right-of-way, we would have to have a slope easement from them to construct it due to the fall-off of the shoulder, which we didn't think we would have any problem getting that. But in addition to that, at the two road intersections that are involved at West State and at Ferry Street, we would have to, where the road currently has a turn lane or widened section, we would have to deviate into Burlington Northern right-of-way to make those work properly without shortening up those or eliminating the turn lanes, which I don't think would be advisable. And Burlington Northern's preliminary response to us was there's no way we're going to get right away for them to build a path. They simply do not, it's a policy of them not to allow paths or encourage pedestrians to use their corridors. So that was looking to be a very difficult thing to do. The combination of the difficulty of extending the path on the south side in the county plus the Burlington Northern resistance to building this led us to look to alternatives. The alternative that was most feasible would be to go on the north side. On the south side, the right-of-way is 33 feet from the existing road center line to the right-of-way line. On the north side, it's 67 feet, pretty much all the way out to Collins Road. So there's no right-of-way restrictions on the north side to speak of. Most of it is made up of grass strips currently. There's a few places we do have a couple of business parking lots to cross, Lorenzo's, and then also the area in front of Low Auto. Both of those have existing sidewalks that we wouldn't anticipate removing. We would widen them about 3 feet. In the case of Lorenzo's, there's a grass strip that we can use that wouldn't affect their parking lot at all. In the case of Low Auto, we would need to go into their lot about 3 feet, 3 to 5 feet.
They also have lights.
Yikes.
They have their lights that being done.
Yeah, there's some other issues to deal with in there that we'd have to
we
work
replace those?
Those are design details that we believe that we can work it out to the mutual satisfaction of both parties. We had a similar situation when we did the walks on Highway 20 going down in front of Mike's Auto and we were able to work that out to their satisfaction. We certainly don't want to discourage any business use within the city. That wouldn't be our intention with this. But we believe that we can construct a path that would work, and with revising their parking slightly in there to do that. We haven't started those discussions yet, although I believe that there has been some notification to the new owners of the facility. So Public Works is recommending that we move this project from the south to the north side. We've taken this to the Council of Governments Technical Advisory Committee. They have approved the moving of the alignment from the south to the north. We met with both Skagit County Parks and Skagit County Public Works and the City of Burlington to discuss the ultimate extension, the goal of the ultimate extension of the trail all the way to Burlington, and all three of those parties were supportive of the change and agreed that it would be more likely that we would be able to construct the trail on the north side than the south. May never happen on the south side due to resistance of the railroad and the issues with the right-of-way. So that's for our recommendation for council tonight. With your approval, then we will be ready to go ahead and submit the prospectus and agreement paperwork, which will come back to you for approval, which will allow us to begin the actual design phase for the project. The schedule calls for design in 2015. We're doing that in-house. David Lee will do the bulk of that, and then construction in 2016. I mentioned in the memo that one other aspect of moving it to the north, as you will recall, we have an undersized storm drain on the north side of Highway 20 that runs from where Highway 9 comes in from the south all the way out to where the pipeline daylights into Brickyard Creek out in the vicinity of, the Sedro-Woolley Auto, just to the east of that. We're under a kind of a timeline already with that drain. Within 5 years, our environmental approval for the SR20 Cook Road realignment project requires us to upsize that. So we actually don't see that as being a bad thing to move ahead with that. The new alignment shortens the sidewalk by about 300 feet, so we save some money with that. And we have some reserve funds in the stormwater utility that are available to put into the kitty to start that project. There's about 1,300 feet of 30-inch pipe that needs to be upgraded to 42 and 48. I don't have a firm estimate for that yet. May go a little more than we've got. We'll deal with that during the design process, and we have the option of shortening the project up some as we go along here too. So pretty confident we can come up with a workable project that would allow us to utilize the existing grant funds and accomplish two things at one time: get the trail extended and also replace part of that storm drain, which we do need to do. The other aspect of putting it on the north that's not bad at all is that most of the pedestrian traffic that we would see would be coming from the pedestrian area or the residential areas on Trail Road anyway, and so keeping out on the north makes it easier for those users to get to the Crossroad Shopping Center and then also into the downtown area via the Ferry Street crossing. In addition, we've already constructed that 8 and 10-foot shared use path with the project we completed this year all the way from Highway 9 to Township Street on the north side of SR20. So basically it's a pretty natural extension of that anyway. So our recommendation is to go ahead and do that, and I'll take your comments or questions now.
Mark, is there a deadline pushing you on this?
We would like to get the design obligated. Well, we do need to have it obligated by August in order to meet our requirements from the Council of Governments for our grant funds. So we have some time. It doesn't have to happen tonight. We'd like to get it done, in the not-too-distant future so we can schedule the paperwork. And as I mentioned, we have to bring the prospectus and agreement back to you for approval after I get that paperwork completed.
Yeah, and the reason I bring it up is because there are two businesses affected, and it's just the optics of this is what we decided, and now I would like the chance, and I told you that I would at least talk with Trammels out there and let them know this is coming. I think it's just kind of polite to let them know it's coming, and then instead of saying, this has been passed by City Council and now we're doing it. I don't question our right to do it, of course, but it's just more neighborly, I think.
Okay. So, Aaron,
that's my opinion, and it's a first reading. So.
Yeah, Aaron just said that it is on the Council of Governments for their approval next week, subject to your action.
So we are pushed.
Yeah, I just pulled it up when you asked the question, because that agenda came out today. So they've got on the Transportation Policy Board, which you'll be representing the city at on March 18th.
Lovely.
They've got 7 amendments. Ours is one of them. So the amendment's necessary to get to the obligation of funds phase. And there is some potential politics at play with this amendment because it is a change. So we don't... in my opinion, there's some risk that if we show up and say, well, gee, we're not really ready to do the amendment, we leave an opening for our friends from a certain community that has trails that they run in phases in the 20s to show up and say, well, that's like our project. We want their money, or something like that. So
I see. Yeah, you're right.
The city of Sedro-Woolley had a $250,000 grant to do this on the south side. It sat on the table for 11 years, and 10 years ago, the city gave the money back to the federal government.
Is that right?
That's a fact. I was on the planning.
How many years ago was this?
About 10 years ago when they turned it back. See, Mark's shaking his head, yes.
That was pretty
So we already, that back then, the railroad would have let us go right along, everything was set, but the city, I don't know why it didn't get done, but they turned back $250,000. Now, if you want to put it on the south side, you're going to run into some things that Mark didn't tell you, is there's places in there that they would call wetlands. You have to build bridges over them, and it would be, to get to the city end of the city limits, could be astronomical to go on the south side, in addition to what Mark talked about. Now, the north side, I call it a sidewalk, but I'm on the county parks board, so we do the trails all the time, and I know all about this one. To me, personally, I prefer it on the north side, and I prefer the way it's going to, it'll be virtually no maintenance, or low maintenance, when you say. Yeah. So, but to me, I'm sure there's other people who prefer it on the other side, but my own personal thought, it's superior on the north side, because I don't know if you'll ever get it done on the south side.
And it doubles as walkways for all the businesses.
It's just a giant sidewalk.
Yeah.
And you said you already kind of been talking to those two businesses about it, or they kind of know?
The mayor and I have talked about it at length. Of course, he was concerned about those businesses as well. And it's a process. We're going to have to talk to them and work things out. Again, there's a sidewalk on both sites now. And as has been mentioned, especially with low auto, there's a little bit of a difficulty with our businesses that occupy the right-of-way the way they are now. They've actually expanded their operation double here in the recent times. We're going to work with them, though. It's not our intention ever to hurt our businesses. We want to enhance that. And in fact, improving the frontage along there should enhance those properties rather than detract from them. So, at least where there's not sidewalk there now.
But if people want to do it on the south side, which would be fine, but the odds of that happening are way less than they are getting done on the north side. So,
and we are planning. We have in the tip, as I mentioned in the memorandum, the projects to put in sidewalks on the north side anyway. This just kind of moves those along and consolidates what was projects on both sides to one side and makes it a little wider.
And how much we getting from SCOG or TIB or whoever it is?
There's $304,000 in grant dollars, and then we have, I think, $47,000 in matching dollars to go with that.
So does Parks impact fees, can they be used on that?
They haven't offered anything towards that, but more than likely, this would. I believe this is going to give some impetus to Skagit County Parks going ahead with theirs. If we get ours all the way to the city limits, then they're going to work hard to get the rest of this done. In fact, we got a letter of support from Brian Adams for this change. Him and the city of Burlington both gave us a pretty positive support for this, which we submitted and as a part of the SCOG package that will be up for review next week.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve Amendment 1 to the 2015-2020 six-year transportation improvement program.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Galbraith, second by Councilmember Cornegay to approve Amendment 1 to the 2015-2020 six-year transportation improvement program. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, passed unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, anything else? Or do you want to just comment on that email I saw today? You sent the...
Oh, you mean just a normal report?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you're right.
Some good news came our way this morning. First thing, we got a call from the American Public Works Association, and our SR20 Cook Road Realignment Project received the Project of the Year Award from APWA for projects in the category $5 to $25 million. I was moderately surprised. We had a good application, and that project had all of the bells and whistles with the Skagit Transit and the park improvements and the innovative circulation with the roundabouts and the new arterial. Had all the trappings, but $25 million projects, there's a lot of those that happen that are pretty high profile in the Puget Sound area. So it's a big thing for us to win this. It's going to be presented to the city at the APWA Spring Conference in Tacoma on April the 2nd. That'll be a banquet in the evening there, and so I'll be going down to accept that and whoever else that the mayor designates.
I have a grandson being born maybe about then. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
She's due on the 30th.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool, and they'll be giving a plaque to the city and the contractor and the engineer at the banquet, and so I was privileged to win one of those once before with one of my projects at my previous jurisdiction on a similar type of development we did over there, so it's neat to be able to do that. We also, I don't know if I've mentioned this in the venue, but we won a bronze award for that same project from the American Civil Engineering Society, I forget, ACE organization. It's an engineering umbrella group. In that particular mix, there were 4 Skagit County projects that were awarded. It was really neat to see that. You probably saw it in the paper. It was in both the Courier and the Herald. Anacortes had their riverfront rehabilitation project that won a gold award, and then there were 2 silver awards for the Anderson-LaVenture project, and then their Conway Roundabout project. And so we were in the mix on that, but we didn't score as high. And you never can tell how it's going to come out. It depends on what the reviewers feel about the projects. But it's a big deal to win this award. And we'll get a nice thing for it. And I'll just mention to you also that the engineer is preparing a nice poster for us. They had already done it for the ACEC award, but now they're going to modify it and add in this APWA. That'll be presented to the council after the APWA award.
Great. Okay, we'll go to committee reports, and I guess there's a park update. Are you going to do that, Nathan, now? Or?
Yeah, we're going to do a little brief slideshow on the Zipline Riverfront Park construction.
Okay.
Thought we'd start with this vintage picture. That's the park in 1987, and I'm one of those kids on there. I'm not sure which one. I think it might be the little blonde-haired kid on the top. That's back when I had hair. So. But,
when did you lose your hair, Nathan? Was that 88?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But anyway, that's kind of a cool picture. But you'll notice that the original play structure that was there, it used to be quite a bit bigger. There was the tire swing option and stuff, and over the years we've had to delete pieces of it. And so what was left was, all we had pretty much was the slide piece, and that was pretty much it. So this was well needed. So anyway, kind of a cool picture. And we started the project with zip line ideas. And I can't remember, that might have been Aaron's suggestion. So, but we started with a conceptual drawing like this, and the playground manufacturers, they worked these up for us. So that's what we start with. And when we get the designs for these things, and this is part of what I learned when I went down to the Certified Playground Safety Inspector course, is you can't just go down and plop in the stuff. Every piece of equipment is engineered to have a specific use zone, and it all has to fit in there within inches, in order to be a certified playground. So that was a picture of the use zone. So I didn't get any picture of tearing out the old stuff, but this is pretty much what we began with. And we were able to utilize the pea gravel down there as a drainage course. So everything that was there stayed in place, and that's hopefully going to help us out. So this picture here is building a base on the side, and it's hard to see in that picture there, but we actually lifted the foundation wall down there another 18 inches. So hopefully that'll protect us from the little flood events. If it's going to be the big one, we're probably going to have some problems. But so the actual that wall will protect us another 18 inches. So excavating for the foundation holes for the new toys.
You didn't use a shovel.
We used the Vector truck and some Luigi crew mainly. So.
Everybody wants one of those.
And then laying out the equipment and getting everything level in the holes. It's kind of more of that same thing. You can kind of see it starting to shape up there. And then I guess more of the same. And then got the cement truck, and I think we used about 14 yards of cement, 2 truckloads to hold all that stuff in the ground. So, and then the delivery of the expensive wood fiber surfacing.
Is it a specific wood?
Yeah, it's just engineered wood fiber, certified engineered wood fiber. You can't just use sawdust. So. And that was everything. We're just spreading the chips and getting it ready to open, and that's the finished product. So there's some really cool videos on YouTube. I'm sure everybody's seen them. Brett's got one on there. I didn't put any on here, but maybe we can pull one up.
I might be able to pull up that one.
Oh yeah, but this thing's been extraordinarily popular. Every time I go down there, it's a wait to use it. So I hope people like it.
I did see some of our engineered bark is still in the basketball court. Yeah, I saw people trying to play.
Yeah, we fixed that today.
Oh, good. Okay.
We were a little bit short, so we had to get another load, small load. So
let's see if this will pop up. This is a kind of a neat view of the park. If it'll load, if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But we figured you guys would appreciate this, and I wanted to say thank you for supporting the project. You guys hold the purse strings on all this stuff, so it was a really good project for us. So
we've gotten a lot of positives on our city Facebook page. I think the park opening announcements now are top post, having replaced the football win, which replaced the fire engine posting up in Darrington after the mudslide. So those are the top 3 posts so far. And then we've been getting a lot of positives also on other websites like the Skagit Kid Insider and some of those groups. So apparently this playground is well loved.
How long did it take to do the entire construction once it was started?
Well, we closed it November 15th. Started taking stuff out, and then we got delayed for the weather and some different things. finally opened it up officially on February 28th. And I was really just, Kevin and myself working on it most of the time, part-time, so if we were dedicated to it, it would have been a lot quicker. Regular stuff too. So.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like that's loading
Okay.
up, so.
Anything else? Are we all done?
If you want to talk about any of the other, there's a lot of cool parts going on this year.
Which things you thinking about?
Okay.
There's one, that's a still shot using the drone that this Over Skagit fellow has. And you can see the line of kids waiting to look at this. So pretty popular. I think there was
Where'd
one
those
other one.
trees go? Where's the trees at?
What did it end up costing?
It's about $40,000. So pretty cost effective.
It all fits together.
The whole thing.
Yeah, you're going to want to see it.
Yeah, the biggest cost was the bark, wasn't it, Nathan? Or the playground equipment, I guess.
See, they're just big weeds.
The 40 grand includes labor, right?
Yeah, that's all internal. That's why we sent Nathan last year to park school, so these installs could be done internally, and we'd have the certified playground safety inspector to do it. So, one more thing kind of put on to a fairly small crew, but it keeps it cost effective for us.
What was your weight limit on the zip line?
It didn't really come with one. It just has the age limit, 5 to 12.
Oh. Is that a problem?
Well, we've got rules posted, and there have been some rule breakers, but Ken Clark's prior police experience come in handy with that. So.
I got one ride in before he came buzzing down in the city gator to bust me. The mayor was halfway on when he got there, so that he had to jump off.
Who?
You.
Yeah. Right. That's how I hurt my knee, right?
Yeah, that's a hell of a night.
Good. I can hope we have good insurance.
Mayor, would you like me to give an update on the ball field projects?
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for reminding me of that, Nathan. I had it in my normal report here. That's been moving along pretty well. David Lee has produced the preliminary design for that, and I'll bring that as a slide to show you in a not-too-distant future meeting. We've got a full-sized senior baseball, Babe Ruth-sized field. It's 315 feet on the foul lines and 350 feet at the center field that is laid out. It basically is a mirror image of the existing senior high school baseball field. If you just flipped it over 180 degrees where the soccer practice fields are, that's where that will lay. And that was placed to miss some wetlands and other issues that, we originally were going to put it up catty-cornered, but there were some wet areas that precluded that. The school district was amenable to using that other practice field area. It simplified the construction. We have a partnership going with Sedro-Woolley School District and the Babe Ruth Association, Jim Allen representing that. Jim has been able to raise $45,000 to date for the project. They were successful. They picked up a memorial grant of $20,000 in the last week to support that project. And then we had the $15,000 grant that we got. Aaron, I don't remember the name of that organization.
The Skagit Community Foundation?
Skagit Community Foundation that we received last year. And so that's all cash in hand pretty much for the project. We believe that's enough to construct the backstop, to put the hydro seeding on the field, and hopefully to buy the play turf that goes in the infield. Maybe the dugouts. The dugouts, of course, will be volunteer constructed. So it'll get a playable field. The partnership is that Sedro-Woolley School District's furnishing the property. They're going to do the drainage work. They're also going to kill the grass that's there now and plow it as part of their contribution. And then they'll do the maintenance for the field once it's seeded and make sure it grows properly during the height of the summer. The city will do all of the grading work. We're doing the engineering. Skagit Surveyors and Engineers has volunteered their time. They did the topographic survey for the site, and they'll do the construction staking for us. So we've got a pretty good partnership going on this. And just yesterday, I sent out a schedule for how this is going to happen. And basically, the school district's going to go ahead and kill the existing grass and get it plowed in the next month. We're scheduling for our crews to start June 1st, Nathan's crew with Public Works Operations, to do the grading work, the rough grading. Then the backstops can go in, the play soil, and the drainage. And then the turf would go in somewhere in July, and we'd start growing the new grass and get ready to play ball in March of 2016. That's the intention of it.
We're putting lights on that field?
There'll be no lights with the construction that we're doing now. There's not enough money for that. That's all stuff that can be added. In fact, the school district's planning on putting in conduits to provide for that eventuality in the future, power. They're also, I didn't mention it, but they're going to run the water line over there. They're going to extend hydrants over there to have that available. They'll use them when they're watering, and then they'll be available for bubblers and other things like that for the future.
I took pictures the other day. There was turnout or something, and that whole Hodgins was just total cars parked there. And that's just the way we have it now. When we put that other field, we're going to have to think about parking over there.
Yeah, so parking we have talked about. The ball field, by the way, is going to just butterfly over just right off of this one, go right in that area there. Also, this will leave enough room right up in here to have one or two soccer practice fields, which we'll grade while we're doing this. There's an existing pile of topsoil that we're going to use to raise the field up, and it'll be built similar to what you see here. This one's built up about 2 feet from the paved roads. We'll do the same on this side, and it'll drain off to the south this way. This dirt will come out of there, and then this will be available to develop as additional parking. Basically, this whole area could be you could get 4 times the parking that's available now.
But they like to park down on Hodgins. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Well, who put that bridge in there?
We don't really know. We're kind of looking sideways at it because it's not really legal. It doesn't have the proper picketing on it and all of that stuff to keep the kids from falling.
Sure good, whoever did it. We used to have just another piece of wood across there. The kids were like jumping across things.
Well, you used to come when I was working out back that winter. You used to bring your dog almost every day.
Bumpy.
Yeah, you had to jump the ditch.
Yeah.
So as you know, what's driving the schedule on this project is Rotary's plan to, after the baseball season ends this year, start converting Tesrick, the existing Metcalf Babe Ruth play field, into a Tesrick Little League field replacement. And so they've got that project scheduled. The plans are done. We've seen those, and they've got quite a nice improvement plan for that. New grandstands, powder-coated fencing, black fencing. The outfield. They'll have the area that's on the outside available for other features like a water park eventually. A sidewalk will go along the outside for a kind of a walk around there. And they're going to replace the basketball area at some point in there. And they've got some pretty neat plans for that area.
When's the bathroom going to open?
I haven't heard yet. They're getting pretty close.
It looks like it's quite a ways along.
They finished the roof, and I haven't been inside. Nathan, you know anything more about it?
They don't have an opening yet. They're opening date.
I was put a big slip and slide in my kids all.
But they've already had their first user, I understand.
I haven't heard about that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So the Rotary will actually be coming to see you, I would think probably in late April or early May, once they've gone through their club process to get their plans, fully through the process. They'll come and present that to you for your vote, and then they're expecting to proceed, July, first week of July, really, as soon as Little League's done. They'll go out and start their demo work and get this project going. So, pretty exciting, though. Hopefully Mark Christ will bring the materials. They have essentially a cement-based log, like a log-style product that will be the exterior. So apparently graffiti resistant and obviously more resistant to time than logs, but really attractive. So.
Mark, I've had concerns from one of the antique shops about foul balls. Are there going to be any improvements to the backstop on that compared to how it is now?
Well, we're going to be bringing in a different class of ball player. That alone may help by dropping the age down with Little League from the Babe Ruth. But I think it's just a standard, backstop design like you'd see at any Little League park.
No, there's different ones, and it's the philosophy of purists, baseball purists. But you're right. I grew up in California, and we had ballparks next to freeways, and our overhangs would overhang, and the foul ball can't go out and hit cars or the antique shops or whatever. But your baseball purists, they think they're playing at Shea Stadium or Dodger Stadium. They want them to go straight up so the foul ball can go straight up, the catcher can catch it. Sometimes you have to sacrifice to keep all your neighbors happy, I think. But I mean, keep them pure down at Janeke's, but a Little League field doesn't have to have. I mean, you got the cars that can get hit over there. I mean, that was the big trouble when Doyle Guffey was there. His cars used to get hit all the time there, and then he moved down there, and then he moved out of town.
What was it? Was he at Homer's?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I think there's been a baseball field there since the 30s in exactly that position.
Yeah,
It used to actually have an apartment in it.
Yeah.
There was a caretaker that lived there.
It was great.
Wood grandstands down there.
There was nothing wrong.
Lined up to see
I used to go sit there all the time.
Yeah, but it was...
The next time you're in Mike's office, there's a picture on the wall of, is that Spud at bat, or was it Puss Stindl? Or
Puss Stindl.
Puss Stindl was at bat.
Where's that picture at?
It's his office in the corner, and it's facing the ball field, and it's got the grandstands, it's packed. It must have been before TV was popular.
Well, what it used to be
the whole town was down
in the
there.
40s and 50s, men's fast pitch was a big deal. And you had Sherman Anderson and whatever they called this one, and same thing like in Anacortes, and it was huge.
Yeah.
When I coached high school baseball, which would have been back in the 70s, I had a kid named Brian Flonis, who was a local jock. Anyway, he was up to bat. He's left-handed, and he broke a window in the house that's on the other side of the... What's that street that comes into where we turn to go to the police department?
Murdoch.
Yeah, he hit a ball that broke a window on Murdoch.
That's the one across the street.
Yeah. It was amazing.
About 380 feet.
We had some people that weren't very happy.
Well, he played with the Seahawks, too.
Yeah, he did.
And for Burlington.
We're pretty excited about participating in all that, and we've got a big part to play in it. We're kind of acting as the construction coordinator for that, and we'll keep it moving as best we can, and everybody's really moving ahead with it. So I'm looking forward to having that thing ready.
I think the permanent bathrooms are a big deal too. Huge.
I would like to mention also, if you could bear with me one more second, I had mentioned to you before we had applied for certification acceptance through the Department of Transportation here back in January, and there's a bit of a process for that. It includes an interview. We had that interview a couple of weeks ago, went very well, and we got our official notification that we've been accepted for a trial project under the certification acceptance thing, and so we're happy to have that happening, and in fact we had Jody DeLay from the local programs part of DOT up today doing some training for our staff just to make sure we're going to be able to do that the way they want to see us do it. They're pretty comfortable with our staff and our experience. So that was good news for us. We've had a pretty good week that way. Thank
you. Okay. We might as well start with committee reports. Council, Sergeant McRae.
Well, I don't have much. Last talked to you guys about a month ago about our recruits. We actually had two of them start the academy yesterday, so that's a big plus. They'll be out in July. We had a little scare with our third one with the academy almost saying she wasn't in the next class, saying it would be till May, but that changed the next day. So today we got good word, and she's in the March 31st class. So that'll put her probably into August coming out. Recently, we're looking at a potential lateral. No promises yet, but we're trying that aspect out a little bit too. I don't think I have anything else.
Thank you. Chief Klinger.
It appears that we're off the hook for the Burlington District 6. They luckily, and thanks to Aaron, we kind of hosted a mediation center between
I took him to Camp David.
Yeah, between the two, and got them talking again. And it looks like they've came to some type of agreement. I don't know if it's a long-term agreement at this point, but it's something to keep their going and be able to provide service to the people on the east end of the city there. So that's it.
That's good. John.
Well, the Northern State Development Project is moving along nicely. The members of our work team on it have been meeting about once a week to update. That would be the port and the county representative and the city representative and the consultant that is hired by the port. So we've been feverishly working through all of the details, and it's starting to become a lot of details that need to be taken care of as part of this process. So I won't get into too many of those, but we're still discovering more and more of what needs to be done and coming up with our plan on how to address those and come up with some timing on it as well. The first leg of this is to see if the state is interested in annexation. The way our team sees it is no future development as envisioned by the consortium and the public scoping process can happen unless the property annexes. So I think we've discussed that in the past. The state is trying to determine who has the authority to even request an annexation, and they're also doing their due diligence to see what it's going to cost them in the long run. So we've provided them detailed information about how much it would cost them to change their utility services if they were to come into the city, where there would be cost savings, how there would be different tax liabilities for the users there. Ultimately, so the state can decide whether or not it's financially beneficial to them. And we're expecting that they're going to request to annex it to the city and move this process along. When that happens, what we'll receive from the city or from the state is a letter, sort of a petition stating they intend to begin an annexation. And what that does is that gets the ball rolling. We present that to the city council, and the council then sets a date to discuss whether or not the city is interested in annexation and should an annexation continue forward. I'll probably do that just at a committee report once we get that notice, just to set the date. Once we get the petition, I'll just bring it to the council at a committee reports time, and then we'll set a date for the next city council meeting, and we'll go forward from there and have a discussion about how this would affect the city. And if the city should then determine that, yes, we would like to go forward with an annexation, the next part of the puzzle would be to submit to the BRB, the Boundary Review Board. They have 45 days to look at how it affects special districts, whether it's logical boundaries and all their things that they look at that's in statute. We don't anticipate that the BRB would turn up anything unusual, and we expect that just to be the time process that we go through. And then should all of that come together, then and the state is still willing and the city is still willing, an ordinance would be brought to the city council to actually annex the property. So that's the annexation process. I thought council would be interested in how that went. We discussed it briefly at the joint port, city, and county meeting, but kind of glossed over the deeper details of that. So we're moving forward with that, waiting for that petition to get the annexation ball rolling. In the meantime, the team is also working on a plan for how development will look out in the Northern State Hospital area. And there'll be a big public participation process with hearings and notifications to help guide what development would look like out there. We'd be doing that through what's called a planned action, which is running a SEPA process, State Environmental Policy process, to get public comments and look at all the impacts of such a procedure ahead of time. So when they do, when the area becomes development ready, we'll already have a sub-area plan in place that'll identify what the potential development would look like, and that way we wouldn't have to do a separate environmental review for every time somebody said, well, we want to build a parking lot here, and have to go through a SEPA process. Or if we want to redevelop this building and have some other ancillary development next to it. And so we would avoid doing multiple project-based environmental reviews and do one front-end environmental review for the entire area. Within reason, we try to envision during this process, and that's why the public process is important. Try to envision what might be there. A 100,000 square foot building for one project, remodeling these buildings, new parking, and address all the impacts of that. And as long as any future development meets what is in that planned action, then the environmental review is taken care of. They don't have to do environmental review at the time of project. So it's a very advantageous process for the developers and for the city, for everybody involved, really, because you get all of that environmental review done ahead of time, and so it is a fairly complex process that we're still working through the details, but that's the long and short of it. And we're moving forward as quickly as humanly possible.
Mark?
I just have a question. Is that all right? John, and maybe it's for Aaron, I don't know, but in the annexation process where you're talking about we have to have several meetings to make decisions, are we going to have to wait, the 2 weeks till the next city council meeting? You know how I feel on this. I want to get as much done as possible, as quickly as possible, and do things in parallel when we can. Can we have a special meeting if it's going to avoid waiting 2 more weeks to make a decision?
Well, you could. I think timeline-wise, at the front end, if we bring it right to the council rather than having a staff report and then to the following council meeting, that would be a 2-week. That probably doesn't need to be a delay period. And then at that point, once you've got that intent that we transmit over to the Boundary Review Board, there's really nothing that occurs for that 45 days in terms of the next steps, other than we can be getting the ordinance prepared, we can have addressed any annexation agreement with the state we might want, so that as soon as that time period elapses, we're able to come back for a final action.
Okay, thanks.
To me, that's the limiting factor, though, is really the BRB review statutory time period.
Well, let's get it to them as quick as we can, then.
Yeah, of course, what triggers it is the state, and I'm meeting with the deputy director of DES tomorrow morning to talk about annexation. So we'll see what and I know they've been working on it this week. The port's attorney was meeting with their assistant attorney general earlier in the week. So we know they're working on it, and I expect to learn more tomorrow about where they are procedurally.
And to address the timing of that, while the annexation is moving forward, and there's these time periods that we just have to wait for. That's the state process. We intend to continue to move forward with the planned action, SEPA scoping. We'll be doing an environmental impact statement, which is bigger than we typically do for smaller projects, and we'll be kicking that off as soon as possible. and running that process prior to the annexation under the assumption that the area will be annexed. To do that, the counties sent a letter transferring the lead agency for that SEPA review to the city. So more collaboration on the part of the three parties here in the city, where the county feels that it's more appropriate for the city to be running the environmental review, even though we don't have jurisdiction yet because the annexation hasn't happened. But they've agreed to transfer that authority to us to do the SEPA review because it's coming into the city, and because it would be meeting city rules, and it just streamlines the process if one agency does all of the environmental review along with the planning aspects, instead of having two different agencies trying to coordinate with that. So that's a very positive thing, and I must say that that just came up at our meeting last Tuesday, and at the team level meeting, and we've already received a letter from the county transferring that authority to us, and we're drafting a letter to accept that authority.
So I should probably mention, we've been pretty actively involved as Public Works in the project as well. The project team that's been put together for Mall Foster is going to include our recommendation both for a transportation planner and for the environmental. Ross Widener is going to be doing the environmental review, which we think is a very positive thing. We're quite comfortable with him and his ability to get this done in a timely and cost-effective manner. And then Victor Saleman, who was our transportation planner for the roundabout project that we just finished, is going to be doing the transportation concurrency study of this project. That's going to kick in a couple of other things that we have to do also on our side. Our transportation plan is in the process, or needs to be updated, our transportation plan element of the comp plan, by the middle of 2016. We were already debating on when to kick off that process. Now that time is now. We're going to have to do that in conjunction with what the project team is going to do to make that all work properly. The good news is the money that they have through their process is going to do part of that for us, because they have to pretty much look at traffic impacts on our entire transportation system with the amount of traffic they're going to generate. So that's going to help us. But still, we're going to have to move forward with our part. And I'm anticipating we will use Victor's company, TSI, to do that as well. It just makes the most sense. That'll be coming to you in the not-too-distant future as a contract. In addition, we've talked ad infinitum about Fruitdale Road and the failure that we have, and we have it up on the map here now. The failure is right in this vicinity, right in here. The parcel that they're talking about building on is the 100 acres or so up above here. Probably going to be more over towards the boundary of the existing facility due to grades up in there. It's pretty steep up on this hillside. But nonetheless, we're anticipating that Fruitdale is going to become a vital transportation link for this site for people going back and forth on Highway 9 to the Northern States site. I met with the county on Monday, and we've agreed to jointly apply to the state to get Fruitdale Road classified as a arterial street, which would make it available for state and federal funding. It's currently local access both north of McGargle, where it's in the city, up to the city limits near Calic Road, and then also the remaining part that goes to Highway 9 is in the county. It's all local access. So that's going to be a necessary thing, and we're starting that process in the not-too-distant future. The county has not been able to figure out a vehicle to help us pay for that. We're still talking about it, but we've made the decision to proceed with our design work. That's going to be necessary. We think it could be that we need to figure out a way of getting that road stabilized at least by the end of this year, but probably no later than the spring of next year, regardless of whether the county participates or not. We're still discussing that with them. But we do already have a contract in place with Geotest to do the foundation design for the repair. We're going to have them get that going, and as soon as we have that, David can spend the time to finish the design for the repair section, and we can get a hard cost on that and come to you with a look at how we're going to finance that and fund that. So anyway, I wanted you to be aware of those impacts on Public Works with the overall project there.
Any more questions? Any questions?
No. I'm glad you brought up transportation. I was wondering about that for...
Aaron?
Just a couple of things. We've got our repeater project out to bid right now. We're expecting to open that at the end of the month, hopefully to have that to you at your April meeting for award on the police communications system. Should be getting a couple new police cars, I think, yet this month or early next month, so you'll see some more black and white cruisers out and about. We're working closely with our 911 center right now on some of their issues. I'm going to anticipate that there will be some budget impacts to us next year on our call costs. And there will also be a new agreement for the council at some point. We're trying to restructure and reorganize it. Continuing to discuss the jail medical situation. I believe the county's ratified the Garcia settlement agreement, so we'll get that paid probably in the next payables run. And then we're talking about the bigger issue of how we want to do jail medical jointly in the future, meeting again tomorrow on that issue. I'm going to expect at some point in the not too distant future we'll have a revised agreement to bring back to you to consider for that issue. And then the fire chief and I and the mayor have been working also on the whole issue of a fire department providing some sort of transport services for the EMS system. So I'm going to expect that we may have an agreement sometime in the next month for you on that as well. So there's quite a lot going on right now, but I'll yield most of my time to Mark. So there you go.
Kevin.
Today we had a little gathering working on planning for our third annual skateboard challenge and figuring out, the city allotted us $500 for the project. They did last year too, but last year we couldn't use it. But now we've done this project 2 years, and we think we kind of got it lined up so we can start growing every year and start attracting people from farther and farther away. So it should be a pretty good event this year and just start growing a little bit each year.
Hope those bleachers get in.
Well, if they don't make it, that's okay. We'll
survive.
We'll work.
Jermaine.
So tomorrow night is the En Vogue fashion show. It's a big fundraiser that the Friendship House does every year. And the tickets it's at the McIntyre Hall. Tickets are like $60 though, but it'll be fun, and it's for a really great cause. And another thing was I wanted to say happy birthday to Nancy, who's here tonight. Happy birthday, Nancy. Steak dinner. That's it.
Brenda?
Nothing tonight.
Keith?
Saturday night at Community Center is the Landings auction. They do fundraiser auctions every other year, and it's happening this Saturday. Tickets are $50. You can get them at the door. There's some still yet available. The Landing is a youth grief and support organization, and they are now actually taking on adults and things, and always looking for volunteers for the program. So a well worth project if you can attend the auction.
What time is the auction?
Yeah.
Rick?
What?
What time was the auction?
Starting at 5 o'clock, live and silent, and a dinner and the things.
Thank you.
Community Center.
Brett?
I thought of one other thing.
Okay.
At that meeting we had most recently, we had probably the second biggest audience I've seen. And the meeting was at 10:30 a.m. on a Friday. I just can't help but to wonder if it might be interesting to find a time when you meet other than in the night and see if you might actually get more than, we've got 3 citizens tonight, which is pretty typical for us.
Yeah, but look at the scope of the meeting, though, too.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but it's interesting because even when we've got, let's double your taxes, we'll get one citizen.
How many of us are still working?
Yeah.
Well, you might be alone on that front. I don't know.
Me and you ain't going, I know.
Okay, I like the idea of trying it, maybe.
I like the idea of trying it during wrestling season.
Yeah, you missed basketball.
So you have time off work?
We're not taking time off work right now, and it's not a Saturday.
Okay, need a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor stand. Thank you.
Goodbye.
I could see it going. Somebody brought up.
Yeah, I just never know where my Fridays go.
Friday. I think that might be confusing.